All right. So we're going to be talking about the difference between display modes and context. Um, as a demonstration, we're going to show you how to add a little block over here for items. So in this case, we have an object with a genre of jazz, and we want to populate this column on the right here with items that also have the genre jazz. So to start fresh, we're going to refresh and go up to taxonomy genre. And so we're going to create a term called jazz. Let me come down here to the LOC source here and just give it a URL. Without this URL, it will not display properly under context when we add that later. So you definitely need to have a URL in here and then hit save. Add a new content item. Let's just go straight to the audio collection for this example. We're going to create a child and then add a child repository item. I'm going to do audio. I'm going to do when the Saints go marching in. Now, the important part here is to go down to type and extend. And under genre, we're going to just type in JA, and then we should see jazz pop up right here. Click on that. Now we're going to click save. Now we're just going to add a media file. This isn't totally essential for the demo, so I'm just going to speed through it. So now we have a full object with a taxonomy term applied to it. And if we want to view it, come here and we'll see we have a title, the audio file, here loads and voice. Get a little bit of metadata, including the jazz. And what we want is to pop up over here to the right, say jazz, and show more items with jazz in it. Now let's create a display mode. So we're going to go to structure, display modes, view modes. And then under content here, we're going to add view mode for content. We're just going to name it highlight. And then enable this view for content types repository items and hit save. We can go through structure, views, or we can just click on this. And then normally you could go and hit click here, manage views, and then highlights, which is the new display mode we created. And ultimately what it creates is a copy of default. Now, we're not going to want all of these fields to show up. So what we're going to do is remove all the ones we don't want. Let's speed run through this real quick. And what we're left with is just the genre field to display. And when you have unsaved changes, don't forget to scroll all the way to the bottom and hit save before moving on. Now let's build a view to list more jazz items. So we're going to go to structure, views. And we're going to add a new view. Going to name it more jazz. Under show, we're going to leave this as content. The type, we're going to switch this to repository item. Sort by and leave this to default or change it to whatever. What we're focusing on is placing a block. So we'll hit create a block, leave it named more jazz. You can change this to display format and title later if you want, but we're going to leave it at 5 items and we'll just hit save and edit. Now, if we were to leave it like this, we'll look down here and it's just going to start populating our example down here, which is 4 out of the 5 here have jazz applied to it. What we want to do is only show content in that list that have the jazz genre applied to it. So we'll go to filter criteria and go ahead and look for genre. Make sure you don't get the delta one. You're focusing on genre, field genre. Hit add and configure. We're going to select what kind of vocabulary. So this is a genre vocabulary, and we're going to keep it selected to autocomplete. This just makes it easier for when you're typing. And if you have a really long list of taxonomy terms, you're definitely not going to want a huge drop down. So autocomplete tends to work best. So hit apply and continue. We just need to look to see if it has one of, and then you start typing jazz, and it should pop down. So you select the jazz one and hit apply. So now if we look down here, the 5th option is gone. So we are filtering now. So we'll hit save. We're going to come back to contextual filters. I'd like you to see what it looks like before we apply contextual filters. So next we're just going to go ahead and create the context. All right, so we're going to create context. Context really is there to control when to show the block. This is separate logic from the view. So let's see if we can make this make sense. We're going to go ahead and go to structure context. And then we're going to add a new one. We'll label it more jazz content. We're going to add it to the display group. And as you see, as you start typing, it'll populate down. You can add a description if you want. It's not really essential, but it might help it if you do end up having a lot of context. Then we click save, and you notice that it didn't go anywhere. It just repopulated the page with conditions and reactions. So what we're going to do is add a condition so that it knows when to fire. So we're going to add a condition, and what we're going to look for is node. Now, this is one of those menus that don't seem to behave the way you'd hope. Maybe it's just too long. I'm not sure why. So I tend to do a Control F, node, and then we're looking for node has term with URI Islandora. So we'll click that. And then again, this is the term. So we're going to start typing in jazz. And it populates here. And now we're going to hit save. Kind of jumped the gun there because we do need to have a reaction. So we're going to place a block. So we'll hit blocks. This does need to be your theme, whatever your theme is. Then we'll hit place a block. And now we're just going to search for more. Again, this one's not functioning the way you want. So Control F and do more jazz. And then we're just going to hit the button that says play block or place block, excuse me. And now we're going to pick the region we want it in. So for our instance, we're going to want to do it in sidebar. You can add your CSS class here if you want. But for our instance, we're not going to need it. So just hit add block. And now we can actually hit save. Now, if we go to home, down to audio collections, and we're going to go to when the Saints go marching in, and you'll see it now populate here, more jazz. And each one of these are a Islandora object of some sort with jazz taxonomy term. What you'll notice, though, is the current object we're on is also on this list. And we don't really want that. There's no real good need for that. I mean, so we're going to go back to views and add that contextual filter. that we were talking about. So we'll go back here, look for more jazz, hit edit. We're going to do add contextual filters. We're going to search for ID. Now there's two of them on here that looked pretty identical. You have ID content, which is the one we want. And then you have ID content revision. We don't need to do that one. Click add. I'm going to change this default value to content ID from URL. This way it gets the URL or the node ID or the alias. Now we want to exclude it. So we'll hit exclude here and hit apply. Now scroll down and hit save. Now let's go back to that audio collection and see if it shows up now. So we'll just go ahead and click when the Saints go marching in, and you'll see that it's missing now. There's a few extra missing that got deleted during the making of this demo.